In a world where children should feel safe and loved by their parents, something terrible happened. On June 15th, 2023, the lives of 3 young boys, 4-year-old Hunter, 7-year-old Clayton, and 3-year-old Chase, were tragically cut short. The culprit behind this heartbreaking incident was their 32-year-old father, Chad Doerman, who shocked the nation with his involvement in his own children's deaths. From the brutal act of taking their children's lives to later sitting calmly on the porch, each moment unfolds a chilling narrative of horror. In the quiet town of Monroe, Ohio, a father's love turned into a twisted act of violence on June 15, 2023. 3 young boys were senselessly killed and left their mother and community in a state of shock and disbelief. Chad Doerman, the father, was charged with this horrific crime. Initially, he confessed to his actions, but later he pleaded not guilty, adding to the mystery surrounding his motive and involvement. As the investigation proceeded, disturbing details about the incident emerged, painting a chilling picture of a father's descent into unthinkable cruelty. As the legal proceedings continued, the world watches anxiously, hoping for justice for the innocent lives lost and searching for answers to the haunting question: what could drive a father to commit such a horrific crime against his own children? Chad Christopher Doerman, a 32-year-old from Claremont County, Ohio, was married to 34-year-old Laura. They have a teenage stepdaughter named Alexis, who was 16 years old. Chad and Laura also had 3 young sons together, aged 3, 4, and 7, named Hunter, Clayton, and Chase, who always stayed together and loved sports. They were funny and sweet boys. Laura, their mom, stayed at home while Chad worked to support the family. They lived in a simple 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in New Richmond, a small town of about 2,800 people along the Ohio River in Claremont County. They were an ordinary family until tragedy struck. So on June 15, 2023, Chad came home from work a bit earlier than usual. He then decided to take a nap with his family, so he invited his wife Laura and their 3 sons to join him in their bedroom. They all sat together and were having a good time, laughing and chatting. But little did Laura know that those moments of happiness would soon turn into unimaginable horror. After a few minutes of chatting and laughing, Chad got up and opened the gun safe, which was right next to their bed. He took the Marlin Model HC-22 rifle, loaded the magazine, and shot his 4-year-old son Hunter twice. His daughter Alexis was watching television in the family room when she heard the sound of a gunshot. She hurried to the primary bedroom to see what had happened. As she reached the doorway, she witnessed the horrifying sight of her brother being shot. Alexis was terrified. She turned and ran as fast as she could. Laura, who was with her kids, ran to provide aid to her child Hunter. She then shouted at the other kids to run and save their lives. Alexis noticed the oldest boy running out the wrong door toward a field. She shouted for him to keep running. Chad was following him, and within moments, he shot his 7-year-old son Clayton. After Clayton fell to the ground and was bleeding badly, Chad stood next to him, as if he had achieved his goals. Alexis was witnessing all of that. She was horrified, and then she ran to the house, grabbed her youngest brother, and fled to safety, desperate to protect their lives. Chad ran towards Alexis and caught her and raised his gun and asked her to put the 3-year-old Chase down. Alexis cried and pleaded with Chad not to shoot her, and also begged him to stop. Chad tried to shoot her in the head, but luckily he ran out of bullets. At that moment, Alexis ran to the fire station where she urgently stopped a woman who was passing by her house. She told the woman that her stepfather killed all her family. The woman then called 911 at 4:15 p.m.
There's a girl running down the street saying that her stepfather is killing everyone in her family.
And what did the female say to you?
And she says that her stepfather is killing everybody in her house. I did. I'm on the phone with them right now.
Did she say how or what was happening?
I asked her to get in the car with me, and she said she couldn't leave her family.
Can you tell how many people have been shot?
I think 2 children.
Okay.
Meanwhile, 3-year-old Chase returned to his mother. Suddenly, Chad and Laura started arguing over Chase. Chad tried to pull Chase out of Laura's arms, but she was holding onto him tightly, trying to protect him. Shockingly, Chad then bit Laura and then pressed the gun against her thumb and fired. Laura dropped Chase because she was wounded badly. Chad then shot Chase in the head and later arranged the lifeless bodies of all 3 children in a line. After killing all 3 of them, he sat calmly on his front porch, acting like nothing happened. While Laura was inside the house, she was continuously shouting for help. After the 911 call, the police arrived at the scene at 4:25 p.m.
Stand up! Stand up now! Tell them we're 21. It's in there.
When police arrived, Chad was sitting on the porch of his house with a rifle beside him. The police officers quickly caught him and placed him in handcuffs. Chad appeared calm and did not resist being restrained. While one officer controlled him, the other attended to the 3 victims. Paramedics tried to save the children, but unfortunately they all died from their gunshot injuries. Later, Laura was taken to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center for her injuries. Chad Doerman's stepdaughter Alexis was lucky to have survived the shooting. She had managed to escape from the house. On the same day that he killed his 3 sons, June 15, 2023, Chad was arrested at 4:27 p.m.
What are you doing, man?
Hey, are you copying all this?
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody. You got anything on you? No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad, I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him. All right. He won't bite you.
What's going on, man?
Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable.
I'm gonna get you here in a
I ain't
second.
running away. You can do whatever you want.
When the police officers caught him, he was surprisingly calm and polite, behaving as though nothing had happened. Later, he was taken to jail for more questioning and investigation.
Kind of face that window on your right there for a minute. Just face it.
What's your name? Chad. Have you ever been here before?
I think one time for fighting my dad.
During the interrogation, Chad Doerman admitted to police that he had been planning the killings since October 2022. Chad also confessed to the investigators that he hadn't slept for 3 to 4 days because the thought of killing his own sons was unbearable. These revelations painted a disturbing picture of his state of mind leading up to the tragic events. The investigation continued, and investigators explored whether Chad had a history of general violence. They also checked his phone records. Upon reviewing the records, it was also found that he mainly had traffic violations in Claremont County, with the exception of one incident when he was 18 involving criminal damage. Additionally, there was a domestic violence case in 2010, where he was accused of choking his father, Keith Doerman. Later, the case was dropped when Keith Doerman failed to appear in court to testify for the prosecution. These records provided insight into Chad's legal history and past interactions with law enforcement in the county. As the investigation was going on, one of the neighbors, Richard Kincannon, told a news channel he was angry every day. There wasn't a day he didn't yell at his wife and kids out there.
He was very angry. Every day yelling at his wife, dogging her, downgrading the kids, just very angry. And if they didn't do what he said, and I've seen it firsthand, but I never thought that he would do that.
The woman who called 911 also gave an interview to the news channel and said,
"She was running with a little black lab and she was screaming, 'Call 911, call 911. She says, my stepfather is shooting everyone in my household."
Investigators also examined whether there were any signs of financial difficulties. They found out from the county auditor's website that Doerman purchased his converted manufactured home on 3 acres in 2016 for $75,000. According to the records, he paid property taxes up to 2023, indicating there were no obvious issues with mortgage payments. Detectives also interviewed 59-year-old Keith Doerman, Chad's father. He was in utter shock to hear what his child did. He told the investigators, "I'm still trying to comprehend." Keith Doerman said that he couldn't believe his child had done something so horrible. He even said there was something going on in his life that he couldn't handle anymore. "I can't talk to him. They aren't letting me talk to him, so I don't have any answers. He probably hid a lot of stuff from me." His father tearfully described him as a good kid, expressing deep distress over the situation. He said, "I don't know if it was financial. I don't know if it was mental. I don't know if it was work-related. I don't know." He even described his son as a fun-loving guy, and emphasized his son had never been in trouble with the law. His father's statement was somewhat misleading, as his son had encountered legal issues in the past, although both cases were dismissed for reasons that remain unclear. The community was deeply shaken by the news of the killings. Neighbors expressed surprise, saying they never expected such actions from Chad. He had presented himself as a great and caring father on social media and in conversations with neighbors, and they said they were not looking for any other suspects. They focused their investigation solely on Chad Doerman, aiming to uncover the motives and details surrounding the tragic incident involving his children. During interrogation, Chad initially pleaded guilty and confessed to everything he had done. However, during the first court hearing on June 23, 2023, he maintained his innocence and entered a plea of not guilty to the charges against him. Later, during his court hearing on Friday, June 23rd, Chad looked very upset. He wore a green bulletproof vest and cried while prosecutors talked about the terrible events that happened on June 15th.
Judge, the case is still new. We're still discovering facts. But the evil horror of what we know is impossible to process. In an act of just incomprehensible cruelty, the father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge.
During the hearing, David Gast, the chief prosecutor of municipal court in Claremont County, shared disturbing details about the case. He stated that Chad had carefully planned the events. He revealed that one of Chad's sons had tried to run away from him in a nearby field, but Chad had chased and caught the boy and brought him back to the yard, where he was killed along with his brothers. Gast even said, "The trauma that this man has inflicted on his family, community, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the rest of us is unspeakable. There has been a full admission in this case. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts, but the evil horror of what we know is impossible to process." He called Chad's killings of his sons one of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune of seeing. A bill of particulars that was filed in Claremont County provided all the information to the judge. All the incidents that happened were read aloud by the prosecutor. According to the prosecutor, Chad lined up the boys and shot them, and even Chad told the investigators that he had planned the killings. The prosecutor said when their mother tried to stop him, she was also shot in the hand. The prosecutor said that the father, Chad, shot 9 times, causing immense harm. One boy was hit once, while the other 2 were each shot 4 times. The prosecutor, Mark Teclouve, told the judge how cruelly Chad killed his 3 sons. He said the brutal act left the family and community in a state of shock. Not only this, the prosecutor also said that Chad even confessed to the murder and said, "I did it. Take me to jail. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have shot them." Prosecutor Mark Teclouve also told the judge that Chad pleaded guilty during the interrogation, so he wanted the death penalty for him.
The prosecutor in this case, Mark Teclouve, has made it clear he will not settle for anything less than having Chad Doerman executed.
After the court hearing, Teclouve said to one of the news channels, "This is by far the most sickening, horrifying crime I have seen. I can only imagine the terror that these little boys felt and experienced as their father, their protector, was murdering them. We will do our utmost within my office to see this defendant never see the light of day again."
First and foremost, I want to start out by expressing the deepest sympathy I have for his family, for this unspeakable tragedy. I can't go into a whole lot of facts, all right, because this is a death penalty case, and my goal is to have this man executed for slaughtering these 3 little boys.
Teclouve said that his goal is to have this man executed for slaughtering these 3 young boys. It was an incomprehensible act of horror that he perpetuated on the family. Initially, Chad faced a total of 21 charges related to the tragic events that unfolded on June 15, 2023. Specifically, he was accused of shooting and killing 3 young children, including 4-year-old Hunter, 7-year-old Clayton, and 3-year-old Chase, in an execution-style manner.
What's more, now a grand jury has indicted Doerman on 21 counts, including 9 counts of aggravated murder, 8 counts of kidnapping, and 4 counts of felonious assault. Now, he could potentially face the death penalty if he's convicted on these charges.
Initially, charges against him included 9 counts of aggravated murder, 8 counts of kidnapping, and 4 counts of felonious assault. These serious charges reflect the severity of the allegations against Chad Doerman in connection with the tragic deaths of his children. The Claremont County Municipal Court Judge, Jason Nagel, decided that Chad should be kept in the Claremont County Jail and set his bail at $20 million.
At this point in time, bond's going to be set in the amount of $20 million cash or surety. Anything else at this time, Mr. Gast?
No, Judge.
Mr. Cal? Secom, anything further?
Nothing at this time.
Chad Doerman's bond, which was set at $20 million, was reportedly the highest bond ever set in the county's history. During another court hearing, Chad Doerman's lawyer requested the court to take the death penalty off the table because he said Chad was suffering from a serious mental illness when he shot and killed his 3 sons on June 15, 2023.
Guilty by reason of insanity, Chad Doerman has entered a new plea now more than 9 months after Claremont County prosecutors say he executed his 3 young sons. Experts will also be taking another look now at Doerman's mental state at the time of the killing.
Chad's lawyer even said, executing the seriously mentally ill is cruel and unusual punishment in violation of both the Ohio and United States constitutions. Persons suffering from serious mental illness at the time of the alleged commission of the offense are not morally culpable to the same extent as others.
Doerman has entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. The prosecution, though, has requested a mental evaluation.
Later, a court date was set for May 3, 2024 to discuss the lawyer's request. Chad's lawyers had agreed to provide a report from a mental health expert by June 3, 2024 to support their claim that he was mentally ill when the crime occurred. During another court hearing in March 2024, Chad's lawyers argued in court that the Claremont County Sheriff's deputies did not respect his Miranda rights after he was arrested.
A judge has ruled that Chad Doerman's confession that he allegedly gave during his interrogation will be thrown out. On Friday, the judge ruled that the defendant's rights were violated twice when police skipped parts of the Miranda warnings and when detectives continued questioning Chad Doerman after he asked for an attorney.
The prosecution presented several witnesses, including police officers who responded to the scene. They were asked to describe their encounters with Chad. The prosecutors said that nearly all of Chad's interactions with the sheriff's deputies and detectives were recorded. The first witness to testify in court was Claremont County Deputy Chad Poffman, who was a canine handler. Deputy Poffman said he was the first officer to arrive at the scene. When he approached Chad's home, the first thing he saw was the defendant sitting on the porch near a rifle. As they drove to the sheriff's office, Chad shouted some things that the deputy couldn't make out. However, at one point, the deputy said he heard Chad clearly say, "Take me to jail." Detective Michael Ross from the Claremont County Sheriff's Office was also questioned in the court. He said Chad knew what was being read to him because he said, "Yep," before the detective finished reading the rights. He said during the questioning in the interrogation room, Chad repeatedly denied killing his sons. However, he later said something that Detective Ross said he considered very important. Chad mentioned the Bible during his testimony. Detective Ross remembered Chad saying something important. He said, "The Bible says you kill your firstborn, your secondborn, and your thirdborn, but first you kill your wife. I didn't kill my wife."
Suspect who's in custody clearly asked for a lawyer.
If they clearly ask for a lawyer, which I've done on other cases, on other homicide cases, they clearly ask for a lawyer, I stop questioning them,
right?
Which I've done before. In this case, he did not clearly say he wanted a lawyer.
But you said that you tried to clarify it with him. That's what you're saying?
According to court documents, Chad asked for a lawyer after the questioning started, but the detective didn't listen to him.
Everybody knows, we trust, except perhaps for the detectives involved, that when a custodial interrogation is underway and the suspect clearly says, "I want a lawyer," that isn't the start of a test. That isn't the start of an officer's invitation to a detective to quiz about name, rank, and serial number of a lawyer. That's the time they stop.
Also, the motion to suppress states that Detective Ross left Chad alone for a while and then returned and continued questioning him as if Chad hadn't asked for a lawyer. The defense lawyer later asked Detective Ross if he had read Chad his Miranda rights in full. Ross replied that he hadn't, but he believed he had covered the most important parts.
All right, now you discussed briefly the Miranda rights. You did not read all the Miranda rights on State's Exhibit 3, did you? On your card.
Word for word, no.
Well, you left out some pretty important parts, didn't you?
So after a long court hearing, the judge decided that the investigators did not follow the rules when they arrested Chad in June 2023. Judge Richard Ferenc stated that Chad's Miranda rights were not respected. Chad's lawyers also claimed that he asked for a lawyer at least twice during his 3-hour interrogation session, but the detectives ignored his request and kept asking him questions. The lawyer also said that Chad pleaded guilty earlier because he was under the pressure of investigators. Later, the judge decided that the detectives did not fully explain Chad's rights before interrogating him, so any statements he made during that time would not be used in the next court proceedings. This decision affected how Chad's trial would proceed, as it restricted the evidence that could be presented against him. This legal twist added complexity to the trial, prolonging the legal process and intensifying public interest in the outcome of the case.
Doerman could face the death penalty if he is convicted, and his case is scheduled to go to trial in July. But now with this recent ruling, that could change. This is big, big news and could really be key to this case.
A final court hearing for Chad is set for June 14th, just before the first anniversary of the tragic events. His trial is expected to start on July 8th, 2024.
Essentially, we're looking at July 8th through August 2nd.
So what was the motive behind his killings? The authorities have not yet determined the motive behind his actions. The reason Chad shot Clayton, Hunter, and Chase is unclear, but some people speculate that he did it to hurt his 34-year-old wife because he believed she was cheating on him, but this hasn't been confirmed.
A memorial ride for the Doerman boys. Earlier today, hundreds of people came out to this fundraiser where all the money goes to their family. So while the boys' father is waiting to go on trial for their murders, the community feels this fundraiser is the very least that they can do.
A 15-mile ride through New Richmond.
As you can look around, we're close to 1,000 people.
Alan Easterday organized a memorial motorcycle, jeep, and car ride, which attracted over 100 participants to raise funds for the family. Another memorial service was held on June 26 to honor the three boys. Community members gathered at First Baptist Church of Glen Estee, dressed in bright colors as requested by the family.
And 24 hours later, the community still struggling to make sense of the shootings and the 3 innocent lives that were taken. Support for family, friends, classmates, first responders is pouring into Monroe Township with no signs of stopping. WLWT News 5's Shatera McGee is live in Monroe Township, where
since the tragic event, many people have come together to remember the 3 young boys who were lost. One of these services was a special candlelight vigil at the elementary school where the oldest boy used to go to school. The co-funding organizer, Rachel Brown, started a fundraising campaign on GoFundMe to help pay for the 3 deceased children's funerals. So far, people have donated almost $180,000, which is much more than the initial goal. Rachel Brown mentioned in a post that the children's mother was like a sister to her. She wrote, "My sister lost her 3 amazing babies yesterday. Nothing will make this better. It will never be okay. But please, if you can find it in your heart to help relieve the financial burden of this tragedy, please donate. No one should ever have to go through this." You must be wondering where Chad Doerman is now. He is held in custody in Claremont County Jail, and his case is still ongoing, with many questions still on everyone's mind. Why did he do that? How can someone kill their own children so brutally? The answer to these questions remains a mystery, but the community is hopeful that justice will be served and the truth will be revealed. The community is still trying to come to terms with the loss of these 3 young boys. Everyone wants to find a way to heal and move forward. As the legal process continues, people are united in their desire for justice. The tragic events have also led to discussions about family relationships, mental health, and how communities can support each other. People are coming together to help the surviving family members and make sure something like this never happens again.